be exploring the ocean. So we're going to learn about different techniques on how they measured the ocean floor, about the ocean floor, and a few different people who have done it and projects that they've done. We already did the quizzes. So first, mapping the ocean floor. So way a long time ago, what sailors would use was a long rope and a weight. So they would take this long rope, attach the weight at the end, and they would throw it over. Only problem with that was the rope wasn't long enough, they didn't know when it got to the bottom, so they stopped using that. So then they moved on to echoes. So they would use a sound to bounce from the bottom of the ship to, the bottom of the ocean back to the ship. That's how they would measure it, so that was in the 1900s. Then, the most recent way they started doing it was they used satellites. So they'll take a picture of the ocean floor, and this has given a more detailed picture of what the ocean looks like, makes it easier for them to measure it. So now we're going to move on to the structure of the ocean floor. So when we first start, we have the continental shelf. So this extends under the ocean from the shoreline. So this is when we first start walking out into the shore. This is where we can still stand and step on. Then we have the continental slope. So this is the edge of the continental shelf that extends steeply downward towards the ocean floor. So we're going straight, we're still able to walk, and then it goes downwards. That's our continental slope. So then we have the ocean basin, which is the floor of the deep ocean. So this is the very bottom, where it starts to flatten out. Then we have a trench, which is a deep, narrow valley on the ocean floor. And then a ridge, which is, there are mountains in the ocean on the floor, and this is the highest part of the chain of the mountains. So now we have a couple of different ocean exploration vessels. So first we have Calypso, which is Casto, who was in charge of everything. For over 50 years, Casto and his crew of divers, scientists, and photographers explored the beauty of the ocean. So they recorded the ocean, and they were able to bring the ocean into people's living rooms. So people were able to watch a movie that he had recorded on their television set. Now what his plan was the whole time was he wanted to show everybody what the ocean floor looked like, what we were doing to the ocean floor, and make people well aware of what was going on, which he successfully did that. Next we have Alvin, which carried 3 people to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and this ridge is a huge underwater mountain range in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and the view startled scientists because they expected to find an empty ocean floor, but when they went, they found fish that lit their own way, which, as we know, these are anglerfish, so they have the bulb in front of them, and that's their light to see through the dark ocean. Next, we have Jason, which Jason is a robot, and he's used for ocean exploration. So, what they used Jason for was, it became safer. They didn't want to risk people's lives by sending them down deep into the ocean, so they used a robot instead. This also was a good thing because the robots were able to stay down there longer, and like I said, it was safer than sending actual people down there to look. So 2 well-known ocean exploration projects are Jason and Deep Flight. So Jason allowed students to be involved with looking in the deep ocean. So basically what they would do is they had underwater cameras, special cable, and satellite dishes, and these students would go and be with these scientists, and they would get to look and see what was down there. So it was super exciting for them because we can't actually send the students down there, but they were able to see it through a computer screen, so they were all able to get involved. Then we have Deep Flight, which Deep Flight was a mini submarine that was built of very strong materials that can withstand the water pressure of the deep ocean. So their goal of that was to be able to go and explore the deepest part of the ocean. So now some ocean water movements. We have currents, which are a river-like flow of water in the ocean. So when you're standing on the shore and the water is coming up, those are currents. We have the tide, which is the rise and fall of the surface level of the ocean. So this is where, the water's starting to come up a little bit, but it's not a wave. Because a wave is the up and down movement of ocean caused by wind. So this is where the big waves come in that surfers use and things like that. So a couple of different places which we went over in our Quizlet, the different areas in which organisms live. So we have the shoreline, which when the tide comes in, these plants and animals end up along the shore and are covered with salt water. So a couple of animals that live on the shoreline are starfish and mussels. So then we go into the light zone. So this is the sunlit waters of the ocean. So this is where you go in, you can still see because the sun is able to hit the water and light up the water. A couple of different organisms that live here are fish, turtles, dolphins, jellyfish. These are the ones that we more commonly see. And then we have the dark zone, which is where the ocean water, where sunlight does not hit. So this is where it's dark. These are the deep, dark parts of the ocean. This is where we can't see. And something that lives here is, like I discussed earlier, the anglerfish. So this is the one with the little light bulb in front of him or her, and they can swim around and they can see where they're going. So through ocean exploration, we learned a lot about life on a coral reef, the damages done to it, etc. So a coral reef is a platform or a ridge or near the ocean surface. So some of them we can see, some of them are a little bit deeper, so it kind of depends. So harming the coral reef, we learned over time in our ocean explorations that things that we are doing are harming the coral reefs. So divers can harm the coral reefs, and when divers use poisons to stun and catch the fish, this is actually harming our coral reefs. We also have fishing boats that can harm the coral reefs, and by this they can scrape the reef and they can break off the coral, and they're damaging it. So we have a review. So how many different water movements are there? 3, very good. What are the types of zones organisms live in?
The light zone and the dark zone.
Very good. And then, shoreline, light zone, dark zone. And then how many things or how many components make up the ocean floor? So at the beginning when we talked about what made up the ocean floor, how many of them were there?
5.
How many? So I hear 4 and 5. So it's actually 5. And that is it.